Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McGurk, I appreciate your level of knowledge and facility with the facts and your ability to communicate them. In numerous answers, you've detailed the support that Iran is giving to militias in Iraq and to Al-Qaeda-related and successor Al-Qaeda groups in Iraq who are propagating this violence and undoing, I think, a lot of the good work that we were able to do in Iraq. In addition to that, where the Maliki government may be able to disavow it and say that we're not supportive of what Iran is doing in Iraq on that level, there are other areas which are in contravention of the sanctions that we placed on Iran, such as in the energy area, the energy sector. It's come to light that in the Basra province, Iran and Iraq are negotiating the building of a pipeline to supply gas into 2 new power plants there. This all in contravention, of the sanctions. Are we putting Iraq on notice that this is in contravention of the sanctions and detrimental to what we perceive as our interests?
Very good question, and this is also an ongoing topic of conversation. They share a 3,000-kilometer border, so there is trade, there's cultural ties. It's impossible to stop everything. The Iraqis have been very conscious of trying to enforce, make sure that they are working and consistent with our sanctions. In fact, they have not paid Iran for arrears that they're owed for certain electricity payments because they believe that it might be sanctionable, even though the banks in which they would pay are not sanctionable banks. So the Iraqis have tried to even go an extra mile in terms of sanctionable, making sure that they are staying in keeping with our sanctions.
And with regard to financial institutions, I mean, there's a great deal of evidence that the nature of the relationship between Iraqi financial institutions and Iranian financial institutions goes way beyond what would be permitted under the sanctions.
I could follow up with you specifically on this because it's a very detailed topic, but Iraqi banks have cut off many transactions with Iranian banks simply due to reputational risk. Iraq has also increased its oil output, while Iran has asked them not to do that because we've taken 1 million barrels of Iranian oil off the market. So, again, this is constant. But the pipeline you mentioned is concerning. If that pipeline goes forward, that could indeed fall afoul of our sanctions.
Considering the extreme detriment to our interests from this Iranian support of militant groups in Iraq, is there any part of the nuclear deal that the administration is currently negotiating that would address these issues? To put it as a condition, Iran, you've got to stop doing this.
Congressman, the nuclear negotiation is focused solely on the nuclear proliferation issues, but that does not mean that we are not also focused.
So we're not using any leverage or any of our capital in lifting the sanctions for the nuclear enrichment part of it to try to solve some of the other problems we're having in Iraq with Iran.
Given the existential threat that a nuclear-armed Iran would pose to our interests in the region, we focus the nuclear negotiations specifically on the nuclear issue to try to get at that.
As far as Iranian support of Hezbollah, which, as you say, pointed out that you've given Maliki clear evidence of what's going on as far as the overflights go and the supply of Hezbollah with Iranian weapons. Is there any part in the nuclear negotiations that we're doing now with Iran which would address Iranian support of Hezbollah fighters in Syria?
Again, the nuclear negotiations are focused on the nuclear proliferation issue specifically, but that does not mean we don't deal with the other issues on parallel and separate tracks.
But again, we're not using any of the leverage that we have in the nuclear negotiations to try to address the situation we have with Hezbollah in Syria.
We're not discussing those through the nuclear channel, no.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
All right, gentleman yields back. Chair now.